Storytime about the best thing I saw while working in a restaurant. We've got a veteran who comes in on the regular named Hank. Hank lost his leg and hand in Iraq. When seeing this, people will often pick up his tab when he's in here, but he never feels like it's deserved, so he tries to lay low. He wears long pants to cover his prosthetic leg and doesn't wear anything to show off his veteran status. He doesn't like attention and it's clear he doesn't feel special treatment is deserved. So, obviously, we shut down because of COVID. We reopened when our state did, but after a week of indoor dining, the owner decided to go back to delivery and takeout for everyone's safety. Thankfully, business is still booming. I don't know the specifics of Hank's situation, but I think he lost his job sometime during the shutdown. Before COVID, we'd see him at least once a month, but this was the first time we'd seen him since we reopened. To make matters worse, he would easily put away 6 tacos or a whole chicken plus sides and plenty of beer when he'd come in, but this time he just ordered a small burrito and a water. He didn't mention the different order though, just said how excited he was to come through again and looking forward to it all week. We put in his order while I went to go get him paid up. However, his card declined. I started to tell him, but he could see it on the screen and went, shit. Shame and panic washed over his face as I tried running it again and again when he gave me another card that declined. Meanwhile, it was the height of lunch rush and the line was getting longer, so people were peering to see what was taking so long. After running Hank's cards a few times, all of his cards declined. He started saying, hey, you know what? Did you actually make the thing yet? But then the bag came out with his name unmistakably on it. He started digging around his pockets for cash and came up with $5.25. The meal was $7. I told him, don't worry about it. You'll get us next time. Knowing how embarrassed he got when people tried to cover him for a good reason, being a veteran, and not wanting to pile on by being forward that I was covering him for a not so great reason, hard times. However, he wasn't entertaining the idea of taking food without paying it in full. Finally, without making eye contact with us, he said, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna go to my place and get some more cash. However, I knew that look on his face and the tone in his voice. There was no more to go get. It's a look and tone I've used myself and seen from others more times than I wish I had. I wanted to insist he take the food, but I wasn't sure which was worse. To force food on him and risk damaging his dignity, or to let him save face but go without the lunch he's been looking so forward to. Before I could decide, the girl behind him, who had been texting for most of our transaction, had just begun to tune in and caught the last bit. She asked, hey, what's the difference on what he owes? I said, $2. She went in her purse and handed it right to me. Hank started to try and hand it back to her, telling her it wasn't necessary, but she cut him off. She cut him off by saying, no, it's $2. We've all been there. Enjoy your lunch. As he finally gave in and went to put her money on the counter, she noticed his prosthetic hand. She did a double take and said, actually, no, you know what? Let me get the whole thing. Give him his money back. Then went in her purse and got the rest. He tried to stop her from doing it, but she replied, listen, I hope I'm not being presumptuous, but you're a veteran, right? He nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought. I served 2 hours in Afghanistan. There's a guy walking around on false legs out there who's the reason I'm walking around at all. So please, allow me to do this and don't think twice about it. I tell you to just get anything you want off the menu if times weren't so tight for me right now too. At this point, an older guy with a bow tie came up and announced, I couldn't help but overhear. Put both their tabs on me, get them anything they want, and then get them some more. Thank you both for your service. Hank was getting pretty emotional at this point, but even still, they both started to vigorously protest to the man that he didn't need to do that because it was their job and they both signed up for it. Bowtie guy wouldn't hear it. He must have had his own story because he got red in the face and blinked back tears but stayed silent. He left his credit card with me and went back to his spot in line. That's when another guy stepped up to the register. Part 2 of how I was stood up at my own wedding. When I answered the call, my heart sank to my stomach hearing my ex-fiance's voice. All the pent-up anger I had from what he did to me came boiling to the surface. He begged me to let me explain why he did what he did. I told him that I need some time to think on it. After about a week, I decided that I needed closure and met up with him at a park. It was awkward seeing him again and he looked different. He explained he'd been in the closet for most of his life and always rejected the urges. That was until he met a coworker that he fell in love with. It turns out he had started cheating on me with this coworker shortly after he proposed. This explains why we almost never saw each other except his days off. It wasn't just overtime. As the wedding got closer, his coworker told him that he needs to end things with me if he wants to be with him. The night before our wedding, they met up and he was given an ultimatum. He either got married to me and they never speak again, or he left me and they could be together. He said he was torn but ultimately chose to leave me. However, he couldn't face me, our friends, or his family, so he ran. 3 months after this, they broke up and he came out to his family. He said he wanted to reach out to me numerous times but was scared and couldn't bring himself to face me until now. A lot was said after this, but ultimately, I got the closure that I needed and we parted ways. He asked if we could possibly be friends in the future, but I told him that I didn't want him in my life. I've been on a mission this last year to better my skin, and 2 products I've recently been using are the Luna 3 and UFO 2 by Foreo. Even though I don't have breakouts, my huge pores and discoloration have always been a big insecurity of mine. Growing up, I never did any kind of skincare, so I've had to do a lot of work to catch up. Lately, after removing my makeup, I've been using the Foreo cleanser and Luna 3 to cleanse all of the leftover impurities from my skin. I expected the bristles to be hard, but they're actually extremely soft and gentle. I've been using this to exfoliate my skin after wearing makeup all day. It's waterproof and rechargeable, but so far I haven't had to recharge it. I've always used my fingers to wash my face, but I can see and feel such a huge difference with this. I use the opposite side with the ridges to turn on the pulsations along with their serum to diminish fine lines and signs of aging. At first, I wasn't sure how to use it, but their app has a lot of tutorials on this. After cleaning and massaging my skin, it's face mask time with the UFO 2. I love face masks, but I'm impatient and I don't always want to do a 20-minute mask routine. Luckily, the UFO 2 does this within 90 seconds. Here I'm using their Make My Day mask that's infused with hyaluronic acid and red algae extract. I turn on the UFO 2 and the vibrations start. It lights up red, which heats up the mask, and then slowly starts cooling down as I apply the mask all over my face. This mask left my skin feeling extremely hydrated and glowing. I've used these products for the last couple weeks and the difference is huge. The appearance of my pores are visibly smaller and I've gotten so many compliments about how my skin is glowing from my friends. Seeing the differences makes me excited to keep up with my skincare. I've become a lot more confident in my appearance without makeup, and I'm happy with my results so far. Tell me about a time when a movie scene had such a big impact on you that it changed something you do in your everyday life. I'll go first. Okay, so has anyone seen that scene in Final Destination where that big truck is carrying those huge tree logs and then the chains snap and everyone starts dying? Well, ever since I saw that movie, anytime I'm behind those tree logs on the freeway, I always go to the right or left or try to avoid them. It's gone to the point where my friends and family have noticed and they're like, "Are you doing that because of Final Destination? You're so lame, that's not gonna happen, it's just a movie." Literally for years, they've been making fun of me and telling me that it's not going to happen, but I still have that weird superstition that it would happen eventually. It got to the point where I thought I was maybe being, paranoid, but then the other day I saw this video.
Easy. And with savings that fit right into her budget.
This shit crazy, boy.
I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. I knew it could happen, and I'm glad that I've been avoiding those trucks all this time. I also avoid tanning salons because of that movie, because that's like one of the worst ways to die. My mom has been sick my entire life. She had gestational diabetes that turned into full-blown diabetes, end-stage renal failure, and a bunch of other things. A number of years ago, she received a kidney and it rejected about a year ago. Ever since I had my daughter, she's been pushing me to answer her on donating a kidney so that she can get one in return. If I donate one, she gets one. Pregnancy was difficult on me, and I'm still trying to decide if I want one more. In fact, ever since I had my daughter, I've had a crippling fear of death and a near crippling existential crisis daily. The problem is my mom's been smoking for over 40 years. She also has a host of problems induced by poor life choices from unresolved trauma and drug use. I don't want to put my body through the trauma of organ donation, knowing her body may reject the organ again for her only to receive another 5 years. I want to live as long as possible for my daughter. Furthermore, since hypertension runs in my family, I'm afraid one day I'll need an organ transplant. The American medical system is less than reliable, and I don't anticipate that if that time comes, I'll get the help that I need. Now my mom is texting me about how the kidney transplant list is 10 to 12 years long and asking how she could be there for her granddaughter without a kidney. Even if she were to get a new kidney, I don't expect her lifestyle choices to change. Honestly, my fear is that I'll put my body through this organ donation and she'll either die from lung cancer or her body won't be able to handle the trauma of another transplant. I hate to put it this way, but I feel like my mom squandered her first transplant. She made 0 life changes, still smoked, ate terribly, and never exercised. I'm afraid she'll end up doing the same thing at my cost this time. I feel that if I don't donate of my own free will, I would be doing it out of obligation and would be resentful because my mom would not change her lifestyle. However, I fear if I tell her no, she'd be resentful of me. I don't know what to do or say. Part 2 of how my boyfriend lied to me about who he was with. When my boyfriend got home, he acted completely normal. I asked him how it was hanging out with Matt at the bar. He told me about his day and told me how him and Matt just grabbed a few drinks nonchalantly. This made me angry because I knew he was lying, but I wasn't sure how to bring up the truth. I also didn't know how to tell him that I was hanging out with Matt without bringing up that I was also shopping for his birthday present. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt and let it be. However, when we were laying in bed later that night, I couldn't take it anymore and confronted him. I told him I ran into Matt at the mall when he texted me, so I know it wasn't Matt who he was hanging out with. He quickly got frazzled and I could tell he was trying not to tell me something. However, this only made me more curious. Finally, he told me to wait a minute and he left the room. When he came back, I sat up and he came to my side of the bed. He took out a box from behind his back and got on one knee. My eyes widened. He confessed that he was out ring shopping for me because he knew I was the person he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. We had a weekend getaway planned for his birthday and he was going to propose to me on one of the days we were there. I was shocked. Of course I said yes and tackled him in a big hug. We went on our trip together and it was amazing. Now it's a funny story that we tell everyone. I found out how my parents met and I need help. I'm back home for the week due to National Holiday and I was going through some old photo albums. I found a picture of my mom aged around 8 to 10 and some dude who looked just like my dad. I took the picture to her and she confessed everything. It turns out the guy in the photo is my dad's older brother who was friends with my grandparents. My parents have known each other since my mom was 6 and my dad was 18. The story that they tell everyone is that they met when my mom was 18 and my dad was 29 at a party hosted by a mutual acquaintance. They started dating a few months later, got married when my mom was 25 and had me a few years after that. The truth is that they actually started dating when my mom turned 15 and because of this, her parents kicked her out of the house and cut contact with her. That means that my dad was 27 years old when he started dating her. We're in a Western country in Europe and we're all white. Growing up, my parents seemed to have a very healthy relationship, both had careers and my mom isn't financially dependent on him. I'm not close to my uncle or my paternal grandparents, but I'm considering giving them a call. I am so disgusted with everyone involved, but especially my dad. How can I look at him in the eye again knowing he probably grew my mom at a very young age? How do you even find someone you knew as a child attractive? Part 2 of how I found out how my parents met and I need help. The first thing I did was have a talk with my mom. I waited until my dad left the house, then we both sat down and had a really good talk. I asked her if she was safe, if she was happy, and if she felt loved and cared for in their relationship. She said she does to all of that. Then I asked her if, should things go wrong, she would have the money and means to get out of the relationship. She said she does. I expressed my concern about how the relationship started. She said she understood if I needed time to process it, and if I had any questions, she would answer them honestly. After my dad got home, I talked to him. I'm still having trouble with the idea of him and who I found out he is. I told him that I don't think our relationship would ever be the same again, and he said he understood. I asked him if he had any attraction towards children or teenagers, and he said he doesn't. He said my mom was a kindred spirit sort of love. Last thing I did was give my uncle a call. He lives in a different country and we talked for a bit. He said I'm welcome to come visit any time and I might take him up on that. He was there for my dad through the beginning of the relationship, so I'll get some outside perspective. As for my grandparents, my mom said that her and my grandparents had mended their relationship a couple years before I was born. Storytime about how one best friend saved me from the other. The school I went to was a public school that never cared or paid attention to things that went on unless it was brought up to the school board directly. It was sophomore year of high school and I had class with both my girl and boy best friend. The girl's name is Aspen and the guy's name is Nick. Since our teacher didn't care, all three of us picked our seats together. I sat in the middle between Nick and Aspen. Nick and I had known each other since kindergarten, so I was pretty comfortable with his company. I never thought anything of it when he leaned his head on my shoulder or squished my face with his hands. However, about halfway through the year, things started to take a turn. During class, Nick would put his hands on my thighs or he'd lean on me and wrap his arms around my waist. This started to make me feel uncomfortable. We were seated in the back of the class, so no one noticed him making me uncomfortable except Aspen, who had no idea what was happening because I never alarmed her of it. I didn't say anything because part of me thought I was overreacting. After all, he was my best friend. One day, the class was empty because it was a free day, so we could all just hang out in the classroom or the commons. The teacher was God knows where, and Aspen had left to go print something for a different class in the printing room. I was left alone in the back of the classroom with Nick. For a few minutes, things were fine. I knew that Aspen would be back, so I just read my book. Then out of nowhere, I saw Nick stand up and shut the classroom door. Part 2 of how one best friend saved me from the other. I was scared when Nick shut the classroom door, but I tried to ignore him and pretended to keep reading my book. I quickly dialed Aspen's number on my phone and slipped the phone into my pocket. Before long, Nick got impatient with me and ordered me to take off.